Hello guys, and welcome back for this 100% race career. This is going to be the first race of season 2, and we have managed to progress from the Lotus team to the Toro Rosso team and into the McLaren team, taking over Kevin Magnussen's seat as the second driver. We're getting ready for the free practice here at Melbourne. I'm going to play around with the setup here just a little. I'm not sure what to expect from the cars. I haven't driven the McLaren very much so far. But it's definitely going to be an interesting experience, and I'm hoping we'll be competitive this year, and hopefully we can win maybe 1 or 2 or 3 races. Who knows? I'm going to spare you all the details from the practice here. Going to jump straight to Q1. This is going to be our first lap. So far, we have Jean-Eric Vergne on pole position. That's not going to last very long, though. 1:28 is a very good time for the Toro Rosso. We make it a 1:27.875, which should be more than enough to get us into Q2. And it is, finishing second here in Q1 behind Fernando Alonso and immediately ahead of Jenson Button. Jumping to Q2, we are out on the prime tire in this particular session, as I'm not really sure what to expect from the tire. We're in the McLaren in a 100% race, so just to play it a little safe, I'm trying to see if we can't get in a good time here on the prime tire, so it'll get us into the shootout where we can fit another set of option tires and really go for the gold. But I really want to start the race on the prime tire just to make sure. 1:28.512, that's not a particularly great lap, but it is enough to get us into the shootout in 9th place. And surprisingly enough, Fernando Alonso is eliminated here in Q2, along with Sergio Perez, among others. Skipping ahead right here to Q3, as I said, we are now on a new set of option tires here, hoping to put in a really decent qualifying time here. Hamilton puts in a great time, 1:25.661. I do not see us coming close to that, but Les can do it. And it'll be interesting to see just how competitive this McLaren is going to be against the front runners. So 1:27.170, that is our fastest time so far this weekend, which is enough to put us into P6 for the start tomorrow. So, no surprise so far, the 2 Mercs on front as always. Lewis Hamilton is on pole with Nico Rosberg immediately behind, followed by the 2 Red Bulls. But what is a little surprising, though, is that Jenson Button is down in 10th position and is starting way down on the grid. So anyway, this is what we have been waiting for, our very first start with the McLaren team, and I am really looking forward to seeing what this car can do. Obviously, this is no longer expert AI. We have upped the difficulty to legend there. Massa with a very fast start, squeezing in between the 2 Red Bulls, going down into the first turn, 3 wide here. Ricardo on the inside. We tried going down the inside, but he sort of veers to the right there. And we have to evade into the gravel bed, and Hulkenberg seizes on the opportunity and advances by us there. We're going 3 wide with Bottas and Hulkenberg now, trying to go down the inside of Ricardo, and we do, going down the inside of Vettel too. There's a little bit of contact there, but no damage, and we are up to P4 immediately behind Felipe Massa, who's had a great start. And with the 2 Mercs in front and a Williams immediately behind, it'll be a very good test to see how the McLaren stacks up against some of the other Mercedes-powered cars. While we're keeping tabs on the cars immediately ahead of us here, we have Ricardo just behind us, putting us under a little bit of pressure, closely followed by the other Red Bull, by Sebastian Vettel. So status report after lap 1 is that we have Hamilton out in front, Rosberg immediately behind him, Massa is in 3rd, and we are in P4. And just as we pass the finishing line here, we are informed that our teammate Jenson Button is already out of the race. And jumping right ahead to lap 3 here. We've managed to close the gap on Felipe Massa just a little bit here. I'm not sure whether or not he might be running in fuel conservation mode, but I do know for a fact that we are. So far I have to say I'm very happy with how the McLaren is stacking up against the Williams at least. However, the two Mercs are out in front and not to be seen anywhere on the mini track there. And coming up here on the second DRS straight, we are going to have a look down the inside here. We break a little early, and Felipe is not giving us an inch there, but it eventually has to back off, and we are into P3 on lap 4. Jumping ahead 1 lap to lap 5, we are forming a little bit of a train at this moment. Remember, we are still running with our fuel in mix 1, trying to save some fuel for later in the race here. And coming up on the finishing straight, I think Massa's probably going to have DRS here, but with the Mercedes engine, we should be able to keep him behind us on a straight this short, even though we're running in lean mode, as he is probably doing that as well at this point. Skipping ahead to lap 9, if you just check the left mirror there, you can see Massa has been overtaken by both Red Bulls, and we are now being chased by Daniel Ricciardo and Sebastian Vettel respectively. And as we're still forming quite the train behind us here, I think it might be time we start thinking about moving this thing up into rich mode and see if we can't get a few good laps in and maybe just open up enough of a gap down to the Red Bulls, just getting them out of that DRS zone. We just end up cutting the corner here, picking up some grass on that right front tire there, so we need to be a little careful here in the next couple of turns until that wears off. And we also get a warning for it, so this is not something we want to do too often. Skipping to lap 12, running a little wide there, almost losing the car into the barrier, and still with all kinds of debris on the front tire there, we run wide in turn 15, and Ricciardo seizes the opportunity, goes around us, and we are down to 4th place. Positive thing, however, is that he does not seem to be running away from us here on the straight, even though we do not have DRS at this point. And with a little luck, we should be able to catch him here coming down into turn 3. Just trying to catch the slipstream here, going down the inside, see if we can outbrake him, and doesn't give us much, but eventually ends up running a little wide as we have the better line, and we are back into P3. And on lap 15, we finally managed to open up a gap big enough to get the Red Bulls out of DRS range. Skipping ahead to lap 19, both Red Bulls have now been into pit. They started the race on option tires, both of them. As you know or may not know, we have started on the prime tire, and we'll be going for a longer stint coming in on lap 24. I have to say, so far the tire wear has not been all that bad. I had expected it to be a little bit worse than this, but I have to say that all things considered, out of the 3 cars that I've driven so far in this career, the McLaren definitely seems to be the easiest on the tires. Well, either that or I have just been driving very nicely, if you believe that. And as we jump to lap 22, Rosberg is now in to make his first pit stop, and that would indicate that at least he has started on the prime tire. I'm not sure what kind of strategy Hamilton is running, but I have not seen him into pit yet, and he is about 12 seconds ahead of us at this point, so I would assume that both Mercs have started on the prime tire just as we have. And on lap 23, we are coming in to make our first stop, and we will be switching to a set of option tires, and hopefully that should put us in a position where we might be able to open up a bit of a gap down to the 2 Red Bulls that are chasing us, who have either switched to primes already or have to switch to primes for their final stint. We are going to be going with option tires for our remaining 2 stints, and we have fuel to spare, so we should be able to put in some decent laps along the way. And we rejoin in 3rd, or at least momentarily, because Ricciardo just manages to squeeze on by us into the chicane there, but we are right on his exhaust, getting a nice slipstream effect there, almost getting pushed off the track there, but still managing to outbrake him down into turn 3, and we regain 3rd position just by a thread. And also, as you can see down there on the mini track, we are immediately opening up a gap down to Ricciardo there, hopefully keeping him out of DRS range. And on lap 27, the gap is now up to almost 4 seconds at this point. So in this middle stint, things are looking very good for us so far. And also at the same time, it appears that Rosberg in second position is not pulling away from us as dramatically as he did on the first stint, as he's only 10 seconds up on us at the moment. Jumping ahead to lap 34, Rosberg is now 12 seconds up on us at this point, and Ricciardo is still about 4 seconds down. We haven't been pushing dramatically in any way. We're just trying to conserve the tires as best we can. Have been running the engine in rich mode for a couple of laps just to get in some good times there. And right now, the gaps either way seem to be pretty stable without us having to push. Jumping ahead to lap 36 here, no immediate change in positions. We end up running a little wide here in turn 13, picking up some grass there on the way. And coming into turn 14, there's what appears to be Mercedes debris everywhere. And as you can see there on the mini track, there is a car in the pit at the moment. So either Rosberg or Hamilton seems to have had an accident of sorts and have gone into pit. And as we pass the main stand there, you can see we overtake Rosberg, as does Ricciardo, meaning Rosberg was the one who had the accident. And that puts us into second position, at least momentarily. It'll be interesting to see what Rosberg does with his pit strategy from here on out. And skipping ahead here to lap 38, Ricciardo has now upped the pace a little bit, has closed the gap on us, and is starting to put us under pressure a little bit. We do have some fuel to spare, so if we do need to put it into rich mode for a couple of laps to keep him behind us, we should be able to do so. However, my main concern at this point is that I probably should have put in a few more laps in the McLaren before starting this race. Because at this point, I still appear to be in sort of Toro Rosso mode, meaning I'm putting up some very inconsistent lap times. One lap I'll do an 128, and the next lap I'm way off the pace at 130, and that is going to hurt us in the long run if we do not get that under control right now. And as you can see here on lap 41, Rosberg has now overtaken Ricciardo and is about 2.5 seconds down on us, closing fast. And the question still remains, does Rosberg still need to make one pit stop, or is he going on one long stint? Time will tell. At any rate, at lap 42, we come in for our second stop here with our tires just about gone at this point. And we're going to be doing 16 laps on this last set of option tires, which should be doable. Also, you can see there Vettel has overtaken Ricciardo in the meantime and is now up into P3, and we are going to be doing our best to come out in front of Ricciardo here and rejoin in 4th position. And it appears that we managed to do just that. And no, as a matter of fact, we do not rejoin in front of Ricciardo. We are down to P5 as Ricciardo is into P4. And this would probably mean that both Red Bulls are now running on the option tire, meaning their middle stint was on the prime tire. That would make sense. This is where we actually managed to pull away from them. So at this point, lap 45, we have Ricciardo in P4. He's about 1.5 seconds ahead of us right now, and Massa is way off the pace, almost 45 seconds behind us. And as you can see there, we are currently catching Ricciardo, and hopefully we are going to be able to keep this momentum going and maybe catch him in a few laps, put him under pressure somewhere down the line. Jumping right ahead here to lap 47, Ricciardo is pulling away from us a little bit, but there's a ton of debris here in turn 14. And again, there on the mini track, you can see there's a car in to make a pit stop right now. The only question is this a guy who is in front of us or someone who is behind us? Passing the main stand here, it turns out that Sebastian Vettel has had a sort of an accident. The same spot where Rosberg was off the track earlier in this race, and he has had to go in and make a pit stop. And And skipping to lap 50 right now, we are currently running in P4 still. We have Vettel about 15 seconds behind us, and unfortunately at this point Ricciardo is pulling away from us as we are trying to overtake a back marker here. This is Kobayashi there, and they have a nasty tendency to just turn in right in front of you if you come at them with speed, and I've seen them put several AI cars out of the race in my career so far. Jumping right ahead to lap 54 here, Ricciardo is enjoying a comfortable gap over us right now at almost 15 seconds, so I think we can rule out any sort of podium position for us today. Vettel is closing the gap on us ever so slightly there, but he's still about 10 seconds down, so barring any major mistakes, we should be able to close this race out in 4th position. And on lap 55, we actually have to endure the embarrassment of being lapped by Mr. Lewis Hamilton here. And I have to say that even though this could seem as sort of a disappointment considering we're not driving a backmarker car anymore, being lapped here by the front runners, and just get a bit of Hamilton's dirty air here heading into turn 3 and running a little wide. I have to say that if we manage to finish in P4 here in this opening race with McLaren, I have to say I'm pretty happy about that. We have driven a sort of inconsistent race. We've been able to put up some decent lap times, but we have also had some really off laps where we have been very much off the pace. So the fact that we do not get a podium finish here today in Australia can be attributed to our own driving. So I guess P4, first race with McLaren, not so bad at all. And as you can see here, Lewis Hamilton takes the win. Nico Rosberg is in 2nd. Daniel Ricciardo is 3rd. We take 4th ahead of Vettel. And Massa is in 6th ahead of Kvyat, Alonso, Chilton, who actually scores a point. And just trying to figure out here who didn't finish the race here. Hülkenberg, Bottas, Raikkonen, and Perez, both the Force Indias are out. Button obviously went out on lap 1 there. Appears to have had some sort of altercation with Jean-Éric Vergne probably, as neither have registered a lap time. Championship race kind of speaks for itself at this point, so we are in 4th here as well, behind Ricciardo, Rosberg, and Hamilton. And that's all there is. If you enjoyed this, please don't forget to leave a like, a subscribe even, and I'll be back with more soon enough. Bye-bye.